What's up, guys? BJ Kissel with SB Nation and Arrowhead Pride with a quick video talking about the remaining needs for the Kansas City Chiefs after we've gotten through the majority of free agency. The Chiefs did a fantastic job in free agency of addressing needs that they had. Obviously, before the franchise tag deadline, reaching the 5-year deal with wide receiver Dwayne Bowe was huge, and then being able to use the franchise tag on left tackle Brandon Albert, giving them options with him, as it's been reported that they are shopping him, trying to get a couple of picks in return. But throughout the rest of free agency, Chiefs still had a need at wide receiver, even with the signing of Dwayne Bowe, and they were able to reach a deal with wide receiver Donnie Avery. Kevin Voss retiring opened up a need at tight end. They were able to reach a deal with Anthony Fasano, and then they had a need at backup quarterback, which a lot of people were hoping that would be, Geno Smith or another quarterback drafted high, but they reached a deal with Chase Daniel, gave him $4.8 million guaranteed, pretty much squashing any thought that the Chiefs would use a high pick on a quarterback. And then on the defensive side, they were able to reach a deal with Mike DeVito, kind of fill in the gap left by Glenn Dorsey leaving for San Francisco, and then Rapati Pito Atua leaving for Tennessee. And then defensive backfield, they were able to reach deals with Dante Robinson and Sean Smith. So, the Chiefs did a good job. It's been reported they have $3.1 million left in cap room. So Chiefs did a really good job of addressing needs, going out and spending money, which Chiefs fans have wanted them to do for a long time, and not spending money just to spend money, but addressing a whole lot of needs that they had with guys that could start right away. Even the trade for Alex Smith, all of that combined shows the Chiefs are really trying to win next season, and they can use this draft to build depth behind these guys. As I only see, right as we sit here today, about 2 spots on the Chiefs, if you're looking at a traditional depth chart, where, they don't have necessarily guys I think that are going to be starting for them when the season starts. They're on the roster right now. The first is inside linebacker. It's been reported that they were talking to former Dolphins inside linebacker Carlos Dansby, and Dansby hasn't signed anywhere yet, but with the Chiefs cap situation, something else would happen first. But if they were able to reach a deal with Dansby, that would really be the icing on the cake as far as just going out and filling needs in free agency. But, besides the Dansby talk, the inside linebacker spot opens up a philosophical debate that Chiefs fans have had for a while as far as, a 2-down versus a 3-down linebacker. Over the last few years under Romeo Crennel, we've had 2-down guys. Most of the time it was Javon Belcher that was out there, but, guys that would come off in passing situations. And who knows what it's going to be with new defensive coordinator Bob Sutton. But, I'm personally starting to sway towards a guy that can play out in space more than your traditional thumper. A guy, like Dansby, can stay out on the field in passing situations, as opposed to some other guys that are out there in free agency, like a Bart Scott, who obviously Bob Sutton would have familiarity with, but not necessarily a guy who's really good in space at this point in his career, and not a guy that you could count on to, cover a tight end or anything like that. So I think that you look at the draft, guys like Manti Te'o, Kevin Minter, Kiko Alonso, AJ Klein, and then my favorite guy, Arthur Brown, are guys that are available in the draft that could play that role. Obviously, they all have different skill sets and, be drafted at different places, but those are some names to keep in mind. I wrote the case for Arthur Brown, and even over the last few days, it's been, as Todd McShay and Mike Mayock's first, 2-round mock drafts came out, Arthur Brown was left off both of them, which shocked a lot of people, and myself included. Maybe they know something the rest of us don't, but if that ends up being true, and Arthur Brown was available at the top of the 3rd round, that would be a fantastic, spot for him to be drafted, but I'd be very surprised if he was available at the top of the 3rd round. And next spot, offensive line. It's still a need for the Chiefs, but there are a lot of different scenarios that can play themselves out along the offensive line, depending on what happens with Brandon Albert. Whether he's traded before the draft or during the draft, and what kind of the future holds for him in Kansas City, and, what the front office is thinking about his future in Kansas City. But if Brandon Albert stays, obviously there's a need at right tackle, and then maybe the future of left tackle. So a guy like Luke Jokel or Eric Fisher, if they're the picks, they would probably start at right tackle as a rookie, and then possibly move over if Brandon Albert isn't then kept on. And then if they trade Brandon Albert, the rookie is going to start at left tackle, and then maybe you've got, Donald Stevenson and newly signed Jeff Schwartz are competing for right tackle. So there's still some options there. If that ends up being the case where they trade Albert and they get some picks back for him, I would suspect that maybe one of those picks could be used for interior offensive line depth. As if you got Jeff Schwartz moving over to right tackle, then you've got a need on the interior offensive line. We still don't know what the health status of Rodney Hudson is. got hurt in the third game of the season last year against the New Orleans Saints. It was reported as a leg injury, but there's been some rumors that it may have involved his knee as well. So we really don't know what the status on him is, but offensive line is still a need. And third, defensive end. Right now the Chiefs have Dontari Poe, Tyson Jackson, and Mike DeVito along the defensive line, but not a whole lot of depth behind them. Got Alan Bailey, who was hurt last season. Don't really know how he mixes in this new scheme. Everything's kind of up in the air when you don't really know, what the scheme's going to look like or what, type of players these guys are looking for to play along those lines. But it is a need. There's not a lot of depth behind those guys. So you could look in the draft and see a guy like Star Lotualele, Shirey Floyd, or Sheldon Richardson being guys at different spots, whether they trade down or number one. Just some players that play those spots. That will be in the first round at some point. The Chiefs could be looking at Star Lotualele, more along the lines of your prototypical nose tackle, eats up blockers. Is athletic enough to go over and play the 5-tech spot if you read the scouting reports out there on him or you watch him play. And then Shirey Floyd and Sheldon Richardson are more your penetrators, trying to get after the quarterback, not necessarily your run stuffers. And then the number 4 need for the Chiefs, in my opinion, is outside linebacker or another pass rusher. That's not to say that the Chiefs have Justin Houston and Tom Ali. They have two very good outside linebackers, but there's no depth behind them. And it's an area that the Chiefs need to address. And if you bring in if you draft a guy number 1 overall, and my guy Dion Jordan, I think right now is probably the sexiest pick the Chiefs could make, you could find a way to get Dion Jordan and Tamba Ali and Justin Houston all on the field out at the same time, because Dion Jordan is so versatile. He can play out in space. When he was at Oregon, they had him lined up on the slot receivers. He can run the seam with a tight end. So you can do different things with him, and you can never have enough pass rushers. I wrote the case for outside linebacker to be drafted, and kind of talked about Tamba Ali's contract situation and where that's at. It's kind of a secondary argument to you never have enough pass rush. Dion Jordan's versatile. Ziggy Ansah is versatile. I don't think Jarvis Jones is as versatile, because I think his skill set is very similar to Tamba Ali in that he's pretty much just asked to get after the quarterback. But talking about Tamba Ali, great player, costs a lot of money right now, but bringing a guy like Dion Jordan that you could be on the field at the same time and help get after the passer, while also kind of protecting yourself in case Tamba Ali doesn't continue playing at the level his contract kind of says that he needs to. So those are the top 4 needs I have for the Chiefs right now. Let me know if you have any others, or if you disagree with any of these, or if you have some other players that you really like in this draft, or potentially left in free agency that could help fill some of these spots. For Arrowhead Pride and SB Nation, I'm BJ Kissel.